Hey, what's going on, guys? So GitHub's Atom is an incredible code editor for web development and programming. And if you guys have watched my videos for a while, then you've probably seen me use it quite a bit. So in this video, what I'm going to do is take a default installation of Atom and set it up with my favorite packages and plugins. Now, you may not see me use all of these plugins all the time, and the reason for that is because when I create videos and tutorials, I have to think about the people watching, especially for the people that don't have much experience in programming, and I have to think about if they're going to get confused, and it's going to make them think they're doing something wrong if they're not seeing on their screen what they're seeing on my screen. So I usually use very basic settings and a minimal amount of plugins when I'm doing my videos. But building a production application is a different story. So we're going to go through and we're going to install some of the plugins that I like to use with the Atom text editor. Alright, so what I have here is a brand new installation of Atom. There's nothing but the core packages and plugins installed. And I've created just a folder over here called My App, and I just have some empty files, an index.html file, a main.js file, and a style CSS file. There's nothing in these files at all. Alright, we just need them so I can give you some examples of what some of these plugins do. Now, if you're new to Atom and you don't know how to install packages, it's really easy. You just go to File and then Settings, and then click on Install, and you can see you can search them here. You can also search for themes if you want. And then we have some featured packages listed down here. And then if you wanted to search atom.io for packages, you can just click on the link right here, and you can see you can search from over 6,000 packages. And they list some featured ones, some trending, recently updated, things like that. And then if we click on one of these, you'll see it's kind of like a mini documentation page. It'll give you any configuration info you need, gives you a list of bugs and issues and things like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with installing some of these packages and plugins. So the first one I'm going to install is EMMET, and EMMET is a toolkit for faster HTML and CSS. It allows you to easily create tags, attributes, classes, IDs, and even full document structures with very short abbreviations. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on EMMET itself and the syntax. In fact, I'm planning on creating a separate tutorial for that. I'm just going to show you how to get it set up and maybe just a little bit of the basics. So let's go ahead and search for EMMET, which is EMMET. And then we're just going to click on packages. Alright, and you'll see it's the first one that pops up here. It's by EMMET.io, and it has over 1 million downloads. You'll see each package will show you how many downloads it has, and we're just going to click install. Alright, and once you install a package, you'll see it will change to give you these options here. Some of them have settings, some of them don't, but you'll always see an uninstall button and a disable button. Alright, and if we look at the settings of EMMET, this will give you any configurations. It also shows us all the different key bindings. Like I said, I'm not going to go over EMMET itself. I just want to show you how to get it set up. All right. It'll also show you how to install it manually. You can actually install packages from the command line as well. Some more keyboard bindings. There's actually not a lot of settings here. So now that that's installed, let's go ahead and just go into index.html. And now instead of typing out div class, give it a class of test, and then having to go and add the closing div like that, we can just simply do div.test and then click tab, and that's going to give us a div with the class of test. Now when you're using a div element, you don't even have to type div out. You could just say .test tab, and it's going to create the div for us. If we wanted this to be an h1, we could say h1.test tab. Alright, if we wanted to do an ID, we could say h1 number sign test tab. That gives us an ID of test. If we wanted to add a test and a class, we could do that. So we could say h1.test1, and then let's say we wanted an ID of test2, and then tab, and you'll see it gives us a class and an ID. And if we wanted to do like multiple classes, we could do h1.test1.test2 tab, and it gives us the two classes. Alright, so it makes things, overall it makes things much quicker. And of course, if you didn't want an ID or a class or anything, you could do like ul tab, and it'll just give you the tags. You could do li. Alright, then you could do an a tag, which by default gives you an href attribute. And then another cool thing you could do is just put in an exclamation mark and click tab, and it'll give you an entire HTML structure. It'll give you the doc type, the head and body tags, HTML tags. It'll set up a viewport meta tag for responsiveness. So this saves you some time as well, so you don't have to type this crap out. All right, now like I said, I'm going to do a video later on Emmet, because there's actually a lot more helpful things you can do, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to put all that stuff in this video. Alright, so the next one we're going to install is called File Icons, which is really simple. It basically just looks at our files and it gives us a little icon next to it to better identify what type of file it is. Because when you get into working with frameworks like Angular, you have TypeScript, you have all these different kinds of files, README files, and it just makes it a little easier to tell what each file is. So let's go ahead and search for File Icons, and it's this one right here. It's by File Icons. Has over 3 million downloads. We're going to go ahead and install that. Alright, now some of these plugins you have to actually restart Atom, and this is one of them. So we're just going to exit out here, and then I'm just going to go back in. Let's see, where is it? Okay, and now if you look over here, you see the HTML has an HTML5 icon, JS icon, CSS3 icon. Alright, and then any other type of file we create is going to have an icon. For instance, if we say test.php, it has a little elephant, which is the PHP logo. Alright, I'm just going to delete that. And if we go into, let's go to packages, and then this is where all the packages we install are going to show up. So let's go to settings, and we have some stuff we can do here. If you want them to be colorless, we can uncheck that, and you'll see now they're black and white. And let's see, only color when changed, which is pretty cool. You can have them black and white, and then if you change a file and don't save it, it'll stay in color, which is kind of cool. Let's see, show icons in tabs. So if I open this up, you'll see there is an icon up there as well. But if I uncheck that, it's not going to show it in the tabs. So it's all preference. It's up to you guys, what you want to do with that. And then there's some other options down here as well. And here's all the different file icons. What else? Let's see. You can resize the icons. There's all types of settings you can mess with if you guys want to get into that. Integration with other packages. I'm not going to get into any of the complicated stuff, but just another helpful plugin if you guys are interested in that. So this next plugin you may have seen me use quite a bit. It's called Atom Live Server, and it's by Jas-Chen. And this lets you open up your current project on a local web development server on your local machine. It'll choose a specific port and it'll open it up on your local host. And this mimics a real hosting environment. Not only that, but it also gives you live reload, so every time you save a file, your browser will automatically refresh. So let's go ahead and search for Atom-Live-Server. And it's going to be this first one right here by Jas-Chen. We're going to install that. Alright, so that should be installed. Now if I go over to my packages menu here, and we go to right here, Atom Live Server, and we say Start Server, it's going to open up a browser on your local host. By default, it's going to be port 3000, and this is at the actual index.html file. If I go ahead and I minimize this, and let's actually snap that over there, and let's open up index.html. We'll go ahead and put some structure in here, and we'll just put, let's put an H1, and we'll just say hello world, and I'm going to just do a Control S to save, and it should reload on its own. Save. You know what? I think we have to restart Atom for the live reload, but if I reload manually, you'll see it loads. So what I'm going to do here is just stop it, and let's exit out, and then open Atom back up. Okay, and then we'll go to Atom Live Server, Start Server. It's going to open on a new tab, and then let's just add an exclamation here and save, and you'll see that it live reloads. I didn't have to actually click the reload button, but you do have to restart it initially when you first install it. Alright, so that is Atom Live Server. So the next one we're going to look at is actually just called To Do, and it does just that. It lets us put to-dos inside of our code, which is probably something you've seen before, but it'll let us open up a sidebar that shows us all the different to-dos in that particular project. So it'll search all the files, list them all, and we can actually search for them and do some other stuff. So let's go ahead and just search for To-Do. And it is this first one here. It's by this Mirjay. I'm sure I butchered that name, but you want this one here. We're going to click install. This one isn't as popular. You'll see it only has about 6,500 downloads. Alright, so let's go ahead and I'm going to open up my JavaScript file, and we can put anything in here. I'm just going to put a function called myFunction, and we'll just do a console log, and we'll say hello. All right, now let's say we wanted to put it to do here to tell us, you know, at some point later on we want to run this my function. So what we would do is put a double slash and then to do colon, and then we could put whatever we want here. So let's say not create. Whoops, what did I do? Let's do run my function. Okay, we want to basically just save it for later, letting us know that we need to do this in the future. So let's go ahead and save that. And then what we can do is go to packages, and we can go to do and toggle, and now over here in the sidebar you'll see we have this to do run my function. Alright, if we put another one here, we could say, I don't know, do something else and save, and then if we just reload this, you'll see that's going to show up as well, and it shows you the file it's in. Now this isn't just for JavaScript. We can go to our CSS, and what I would do is probably just put a comment here and then do to do, and let's say, I don't know, add body style. Alright, we'll save that, and then if we go over here and reload, you'll see we have this style CSS, and we have our to do right here to add the body style. So you can imagine if this was a big application, a big project, and you had to-dos all over the place, you could easily see them here, and not only that, but you can search for them. So if we search for my function, you'll see that it's going to filter out that. It's going to tell us the number of files that were searched, which is 3 because we only have 3 files here. Alright, and if we go and we look at the settings, let's go to settings, packages, and we'll click on the settings for the to-do package, and let's see, what did I want to show you? Right here, we can ignore certain paths as well. So for instance, if you're working with Node.js, usually you have a folder called Node Modules, which is just all of your Node packages, and you're not going to want to search all those files because there can be a lot of them. So if we had, let's say, test.js in here, and let's say there was a to-do in here, I don't know, we'll just say anything, and we save that. If I reload, you'll see that it is showing here, right here, Node Modules test.js. But if we wanted to skip this Node Modules folder altogether, we could just put it in the ignored paths like that, and then if we go and reload, it's now not showing that. It's not searching that file at all, or that folder. You can see search 3 files. Okay, so you can ignore files, you can ignore entire folders, which is very helpful and really, you know, helps stop from bogging it down. All right, so that is the To-Do plugin. Minimap by Atom Minimap is a package that gives us a condensed version of the file on the right side of the screen. And if you've ever used Sublime Text, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a feature that is by default on Sublime. So let's search for Minimap, and it's this one right here, Minimap. This has over 3.5 million downloads. Let's go ahead and install it. Alright, so if we go ahead and close this up, let's open up main.js, and it doesn't have to be JavaScript, it can be any file, and you'll see there's a little mini version of it over here. And if I go ahead and paste in some code from another script that I had open, you'll see that it's going to show over here as well. So this looks pretty much identical to the one in Sublime Text. So as far as options, if we go to our packages here, and let's go to Minimap settings. We have absolute mode, which is gonna it's going to enable the text to go underneath the minimap. Okay, so right now you'll see that it's just kind of a sidebar and it splits it from, you know, this side and this side. But if I were to check that absolute mode now, well, I think we have to restart the editor, but what it'll do is it'll allow the text to go underneath here, okay, instead of just kind of cutting it off for the whole length of the page. And let's see, we have adjust absolute mode height. So apparently you can adjust the height as well for the absolute mode. Let's see, adjust minimap width only if smaller. Character height, character width. So there's a lot of settings here. I haven't really played too much with it. It also has some compatibility with pigments, which is actually the next one I'm going to show you. Opacity, you can change that so you can kind of see through it. So there's some options to this, but it's a really simple plugin as far as functionality. So Pigments is a really cool plugin that will basically search your project and your CSS for specific colors, and then it'll add that color as a highlight behind the text. So this can be a color name, it can be a hexadecimal value, an RGB value, anything like that. So let's search for Pigments. And it's right here. Now there's actually one called Minimap Pigments, which enables it on the Minimap plugin that we just installed. So I'm actually going to install both of these. So let's click both of those. Alright, so I'm going to close this up, and now I'm going to open up that style CSS file, and let's go below the to-do. And actually, let's say we're replacing this to-do with our body, and let's put in a background. So we'll put a background of, let's say, black. All right, and then it should just pop up. There it is. So it just gives you the color of that text. Now, this isn't too helpful because obviously everybody knows what black is, but not everybody knows hexadecimal values. So if we were to say color, and let's do a light gray, so F4 3 times. All right, and it's going to get that color, and it's going to add it to the background. And we can also do RGB. So if we do an H1 here, and let's say we wanted background, and we'll do RGB, and let's say we wanted to do 181 1370, so red, green, blue, and you'll see that it gives us this yellowish color. Okay, so any color format, it'll read and it'll give you those colors. Now another cool thing, if we go ahead and save this, and we go and we click on what is it, Control Shift P to open up our command palette, and we search for pigments, and let's see, I want this right here, find colors. And then what this is going to do is it's going to look in our entire project for every color that exists, and it's going to list them here and inside the file that they exist. So you can see the entire color scheme visually, which I think is pretty cool. So very handy for writing HTML and CSS. Alright, so this next set of packages has to do with linting. Now I'm not going to go into linting in detail. It's basically analyzing your code for potential errors as well as checking style of your code. So it makes sure your code is written in the best way possible. Now there's a bunch of different linters for different languages. Most of them have a default set of rules to check for, and they also allow you to configure your own rules and remove some rules as well. So it can get really complicated. So what we're going to do is we're going to install two linters, which is JS-Hint and JS-CS. By default, JS-Hint will catch serious breakable errors and things like missing semicolons, and then JS-CS is more of a style checker. It's much more strict in its checking. So I don't usually use linters in tutorials because I don't like issues popping up all over the place. It just confuses people. But linters are a good idea when you're actually working on production code. So if we search for linter, there's basically a core linter package, and then you can add on like you know, JS-CS and JS-Hint. There's all types of them. I'm not going to get into all of them, but let's go ahead. Let's install this, and then we're going to look for two more. And you'll see that some of these packages actually need dependencies. I'm just going to click yes to install these dependencies. All right, this one too. All right, and then I'm going to search for Linter-JS hint. And this is this one we want right here, Linter-JS hint. We'll click install. All right, and then we're going to search for Linter-JS CS. And we're going to install that. All right, so now that those are installed, we're going to have to just get out of Atom and then go back in. And then let's open up main.js. And notice we have some issues here, and these should all be JSCS. You can see down here it tells you the provider, and this is all just style based. So things like you know, not putting a space there, just little issues like that. With JS hint, it's more serious stuff. For instance, if I were to, I'm just going to get rid of this. If I were to create a variable and call it 1, which I'm sure you guys know is not valid in JavaScript, that's not going to work. And I'll just set it to a string of test. And now if you look down here, there's actually one from JS hint that says expected an identifier, instead saw 1. Okay, basically telling us that this is not, we can't use that as a variable. And then if we were to, let's say, create a variable or do anything and then just leave off the semicolon, you'll see that this also gives us an error, but it's yellow, meaning that it's more of a warning than an error. All right, and let's see, we should be able to, I thought that that would pop up, but I guess not. And down here you'll see severity warning, missing semicolon. All right, so it just does things like that to better help you debug your code. Not just debug, but also, you know, format your code in the best way possible. And you can see why I wouldn't want to have this enabled when I'm doing videos, because I'm trying to show examples. I'm not trying to, you know, write perfect code, so I don't want this stuff popping up all the time. All right, and there's a lot more to it. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just giving you guys an example of what these packages do. This next plugin is called Beautify, and this works for just about any language. It'll automatically clean up your code and make it more readable with the correct indentation and just, you know, beautify it. So let's search for Beautify. And right here has over 3 million downloads. You can see it works with JavaScript, PHP, Python, Java, C, C++, pretty much anything. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to search for the jQuery. Actually, let's just say jQuery CDN. And let's see, I'm going to click on the minified version here and then just grab this link. I just want to get some minified code. That's the only reason I'm doing this. And I'm not going to get the whole thing. I'm just going to grab like up to here and then copy it. And then let's go to our main.js and just paste this in. And you can see that that's just an absolute mess. And if I go to packages and go to Beautify, it's going to go ahead and just take everything and indent it correctly, and it's going to make it look nice. And obviously it's no longer minified, but I just use that to give you an example of how good it is at you know, making it look a lot better and readable. Okay, so very, very simple. It's basically just some code cleanup, all right, but in a very elegant and easy way. So chances are, if you've been programming for a while, you've probably used the Stack Overflow website quite a bit when you've been stumped. So the next plugin is called Ask a Stack, and it allows us to search for answers on Stack Overflow without having to even leave Atom. So let's search for Ask a Stack. And let's see. Right here. Oh, it's Ask Stack by Chris911. So let's click install here. All right, and let's say we're in the JavaScript file here. I'm just going to get rid of that. And let's say we wanted to look up how to sort an array. So we could actually do, I think it's Control-Alt-A, and we get this little pop-up where we can ask a question. So let's say, how do I sort, we'll just say, how do I sort an array? And then we can search by language. So we'll say JavaScript and click ask, and everything shows up over here. If I click the link title here, it'll open up in a browser, but if I want to show it right in here, we can just click on that. It'll give us the question and the answers. Okay, which is really helpful and saves you some time. You don't have to keep going back and forth. It's something that's very, very simple, but again, can be very helpful. So highlight selected is the last package we're going to look at, and this one is very, very simple. It just allows us to highlight some text or an expression, and it'll search that file for any other instances of that text. So let's search for, what is it, highlighted selected, and it's right here. We'll click install. All right, and then if we go into main.js, and let's say, I don't know, we'll just say function. Okay, and then if I were to highlight the word function, you'll see every other instance of that word is going to be highlighted. Okay, so very, very simple, but it is something that that can be very helpful as well. All right, so that comes to the end of this video. Now, there's one set of plugins and packages that I didn't include here, and that's packages for specific frameworks. So if you're using something like Angular or React or Laravel or anything like that, most of those have their own packages. For instance, let's say we were using Vue.js, so we'd search for Vue, because you want to have the correct syntax highlight. And this is actually the one I use, is this language Vue. So I'm not going to go over every single framework plugin, but those are also ones that you probably want to install if you're working with Vue a lot or React or something like that. Okay, so that does it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you liked it, please leave a like, please subscribe, please follow me on social media. I actually just created an Instagram account, which is going to be kind of just like tech stuff along with personal and family stuff. So you guys are welcome to follow. It's Instagram/Traversy Media. So come along, follow me, and I will see you in the next video.